Hello, welcome to the session Credit Card Payment Security, which is about adding 3D Secure SDK for Merpay iOS. My name is Mikael GOFF. I'm an iOS engineer at Merpay. I focus on iOS development, starting with Objective-C. I'm passionate about fintech and teamwork. I joined Merpay in 2019, and now I spend all my energy on providing the best user experience for Merpay and Mercari iOS users. As you may know, both apps are actually the same. So I'm also passionate about project management, and I also train as a Scrum Master. I use this skill to help teams in the company to achieve their best results when it's necessary. So I will start with the first item, which is like introducing this technology. So what is 3D Secure? So 3D Secure is a protocol that is aimed at securing authentication in both browser-based apps and mobile-based apps for online payment. So basically, when you want to pay with a credit card or a cash card, 3DS is there to secure these transactions. So the 3D in 3D Secures means that there are like three domains. Like there is a issuer, interoperability, acquirer. So the issuer domain basically is the card issuer. The interoperability domain is basically the infrastructure in the middle that manages the 3D Secure protocol in depth. And on the other side, we have the acquired domain, which is the bank and the merchant to which the money is being paid, depending on who is using the service, basically. So in our case, Merpay would be on the acquired domain side. So if we look a little bit at the history of this protocol, in 1999, it was created by Cello Communication AB. So the old name, now it's Thales Group. And the first name of this technology was P42. In 2001, it was approved by Arcode System and Visa Inc. under a new name, Visa Secure. So it was a new version. And then in 2016, there was a release of the version 2 of this protocol made by EMV Co, EMV in order to comply with new EU authentication requirements. So that's, of course, the one we are using, the most recent version. So how 3D Secure usually works? Usually the scenario is like this. You have a user that will try to buy some goods with a credit card. The 3DS system will estimate the transaction risks. And then the user might be asked to input a one-time password in order to proceed with his purchase. He might be asked because it's possible that the system doesn't ask him anything. It will be, in this case, a frictionless transaction. So just some numbers worldwide. How many people are paying using 3DS, and how many frictionless payments are actually occurring. roughly in the world. So you can see, like in North America, you have 90% of all card payments that are going through 3DS. In Europe, 65%, and globally in the world, also 65%. Regarding frictionless payment, in North America, it's only 20%, but in Europe and globally in the world, it's 41%. So it's pretty good, but it's improving. The goal is to have more and more frictionless payment. That means that there is no challenge. The user doesn't need to do anything, right? So the problem we needed to solve in our case at Merpay was basically that there are like stolen credit cards, and stolen credit cards should not be used in our product. There are actually many ways to steal a credit card. Basically, just to illustrate this, you could get your credit card information stolen offline or online. So offline, it would be, for example, people could take a picture of your credit card. It could be also that the credit card will be compromised when you put it in a payment terminal in a shop. That's possible. And online, it would be like when you purchase something online, you input your credit card information, and maybe a hacker will manage to retrieve those payment information. So we want to avoid people using stolen credit card in our product. And what would happen if you are not using 3D Secure is like, as an example again, here is a scenario. User A will have his credit card stolen. User B will try to buy an item on Mercari with the stolen credit card, for example. So without 3D Secure, Mercari actually had no way to know that the credit card was stolen. And there was only one option. It was to proceed with the purchase. So the end result would be to cash back the money to the user if there was a problem with the payment. So just note that now 100% of our transactions are checked using 3D Secure. So how to identify security risks? Because that's the most important thing when you want to filter any payment issue, right? So during a purchase on Mercari, we ask ourselves, is the item at high risk of being bought by fraudulent users? What are the risks the credit card was stolen? We can basically estimate the probability of a fraudulent purchase thanks to what we call AML, anti-money laundering systems. But we also want to make sure that only the owner of a credit card can use it for payment. And we use now 3D Secure to assess the risk of a credit card transaction. So you can see on the right here, this is a Mercari checkout screen. And when you pay with a credit card, you will proceed to this screen. And then after that, if there is any risk identified, you will have maybe a challenge screen presented to you. So 3DS can judge a card transaction and return a risk level, basically. So what is a risk level? So to simplify a little bit, here on the left, you can see we have a low risk, medium risk, and high risk. So the system, when the risk is low, that's we want to have low risk, of course. But the reason for us is to make it easy for users to simply pay with their credit cards without having to enter any password or anything. So hopefully the transaction you will do will be a low risk transaction. In the case of a medium risk level, the system will actually ask you for a personal, usually one-time password. So you will input it. If it's correct, you will be able to pay. If the risk is too high, we simply refuse the transaction, and you won't be able to pay with this credit card for the item you selected. So at Mercari, we wanted to, of course, improve security, but also trust using this 3DS SDK for iOS. So by adding 3D Secure SDK to our client applications, put applications because we also have an Android app, of course. We also have a front end, web front end. By adding 3D Secure SDK, we bring more trust to our users by making sure that only the real owner of the credit card can use it on our platform. I think this is very important to mention. If somebody stole your credit card, he won't be able to use it on Mercari. And if a buyer tries to purchase your items with a stolen credit card, he will be stopped by the system. So I was talking about the 3DS challenge or password. So what is the 3DS requested password? The password is often a one-time password called OTP as well, provided by your credit card issuer. So it means that you will be requested a new password for every medium risk transaction made. Usually, a credit card issuer will simply send you an OTP, one-time password, by SMS to your personal phone number. There are other ways to give you this one-time password, but using SMS is very easy for many people to use. So now I'm going to give you a little bit of information about the implementation. So here I come back to Mercari checkout screen that you can see on the left. And if your transaction is identified as a medium risk transaction, you will see this second screen that you can see in the middle of the screen right now is 3D password input screen. So basically here it will be the portal of your credit card issuer, and it will request basically your one-time password. You will input your password there. If it's correct, you will be able to purchase. So just to summarize again this screen, after confirmation of a credit card payment request, we can show a 3D secure model. So here we use a model because this is what is supposed to happen according to the specification of the 3DS SDK. You will be asked for your credit card OTP in order to proceed with the purchase. So there are also other flows, like the frictionless flow, where you will not be presented this model screen and you will directly see the successful transaction screen. Or in the case the risk is too high, you will have an error message on the screen and the payment and the transaction will be refused. In terms of the architecture, always we need to keep it simple for security reason. As you can see here, we have the Merpay and Mercari iOS app. There is a 3DS SDK integrated into it. So the 3DS SDK will interact with the different credit card providers, but also with a partner servers. And on the other hand, from our app, we have to discuss with our backend, and the backend will also send and request some specific informations to the partner. So it's all about exchanging like security and some kind of private information right there to ensure that the transaction will be secure. So what's happening when you add a new SDK to your existing code base? So basically, Mercari iOS app is a pretty big iOS software. And when we add external frameworks, like in this case 3DS SDK, we need to make sure it won't impact our performances, security, and app binary size. So performances, of course, we don't want the app to become slow or something like that, or even crash because of faulty SDK. Security, of course, in this case, we work with a provider of the SDK to check many security aspects on their side and on our side as well. And regarding the app binary size, there is some optimization made for the release version of the binary. The reason here might be obvious, but you don't want to have a big software on the App Store, for example, here. Otherwise, people might have to wait longer to get the app installed on their phone, and that's something we don't want. The SDK also needed to be a XC framework, so it's mandatory since Xcode 12 in order to support the transition to the M1 ARM64 architecture. The SDK can also be updated like this year, next year, depends on the improvement on their side or on our side. So in this case, it should not impact previous Mercari version. So we need to add this SDK and make sure that we will have an abstraction layer, for example, using Swift protocols on client side to avoid any conflict when we or problem with the compilation time, right? When we upgrade the SDK. Regarding the difficulties during this development, so the first difficulties we had were basically bug fixing, because it was a new, brand new project, a new SDK as well. So we were expecting some bugs. Also, I should mention that the integration of such complex system is time consuming, and of course is open to some bugs appearing in the process. So it was necessary to debug, and based on the SDK logs with our partners in order to identify the source of a problem. So the problem could be in-house or on the 3D SDK side. So this requires a deep understanding of the SDK specifications, a preparation of the key data before each meeting in order to be efficient. You can imagine that the SDK gives a lot of logs, but we need to filter eventually what can be interesting for them to know, so that they can find a problem on their side, for example. We also to use simple and efficient English to help understand the topics and being more inclusive. Of course, most of us can speak English, but that's not obvious. So we always have to think about this when having meetings with a lot of people. Regarding the legacy support, because all the old apps were not supporting 3DS, so we needed to be sure that they were still working and that the migration of this new 3DS feature would be a success. So at Merpay, we use feature flags in order to deliver new features and do A/B testing. This allows releasing new features by small increments. So for example, for 3DS, we chose at first to release only the new feature to 10% of our user base. But on the other side, using feature flags increases the complexity of the code and requires non-regression testing by QA. Because of course, when 10% of your user base is using the new 3D Secure SDK, the remaining percent of your users is actually not using this new feature, and you need to make sure everything works perfectly. So I mentioned QA, so this is a quality insurance. It is mandatory to have a good QA team with you when you develop any kind of system for front-end product, more especially. So in our case, on iOS, it's really mandatory because they will help follow up with any problem. They're also engineers, of course, so they might help you debug any issues. They will go through use case you will not think about. So in this case, the system is complex and depends on many credit card issuers who present their portal through the 3DS SDK. So for each software iteration, our QA had to check the legacy and new flows, including testing the different card issuer scenarios. And last, improving UX with our partners. So UX is basically user interactions. UX is important. Over the months, we work with our partners to reach a great Mercari user experience. So there are many, many examples, but among them, I will just give you 3 different items. So we added self-explanatory error feedbacks. So of course, the 3DS SDK comes with some default error feedbacks, but they are not the code that we made ourselves, and we want to be able to control everything that we show to our users. So we needed to customize all error messages that the 3DS SDK would send back to us. We also updated our payment flow in case of 3D Secure errors, because the errors are of many different types. We needed to handle them sometimes in different ways. And we also discussed OS-specific user interactions, as we also have an Android implementation of this new feature. So for example, on Android, the challenge screen where you have to enter your password will be a new activity that will be shown on the screen, but on iOS it will be a page sheet that will be presented. So I want to give some credits to the team because it's important. It's a big project, and you need all of those people to achieve a project like this. So we work for months all together. Project manager, Android engineers, a UX designer, backend engineers, and great partners to bring this project to life. Thank you very much. I leave you some important links here if you want to check more into the 3DS specifications, or if you want to have a look at more in detail 3DS usage in the world. Thank you very much.